before me, it's going to go over maybe
Good morning,
12
everyone.
questions.
Welcome to Third Age Forum. Does the thought of downsizing and moving overwhelm you? I know it does me. Yes, I see a couple hands. We're delighted to have so many of you with us today in person, on live stream, and at a later date on Westminster's YouTube page. I want to start with a poem that someone brought to me this morning. It's from Felicity Mary Oliver. It says, "When I moved from one house to another, there were many things I had no room for. What does one do? I rented a storage space and filled it. Years passed." I had 2 storage spaces at one point. Occasionally I went there and looked in, but nothing happened, not a single twinge of the heart. As I grew older, the things I cared about grew fewer, but were more important. So one day I undid the lock and called the trash man. He took everything. I felt like the donkey when his burden is finally lifted. Things, burn them, make a beautiful fire. More room in your heart for love, for the trees, for the birds who own nothing, and the reason they can fly.
Oh, I love that. That's beautiful.
Thank you, Sheila. We will begin with a prayer by the Reverend Margaret Fox. That will be followed by an introduction of our guest speaker, Jill Freeman, by committee member Scott Applewick. So sit back and enjoy today's forum. There will be time for questions and answers before we break for lunch. Margaret, will you please lead us in prayer?
Thank you, Sue. It is good to be here. Jill, it is great to have you with us. I'm excited for this program. For those of you from Westminster, from those of you from the broader community, those of you watching from Connecticut, hi, Mom and Dad, and everybody else who's joining us online, we're so glad to have you here. Let's begin with a word of prayer. O Lord, you have been our dwelling place in all generations. God, we lift up all of the transitions of life, the pastoral transition of this congregation, the transitions in our own lives into new ages and phases, into new spaces of living. We pray for ourselves and all those we know who are undergoing this phase of life, and we give thanks for this space to contemplate and prepare. We give you thanks for this community and for our speaker, and we ask that this would be a time of learning and curiosity and exploration. In your holy name we pray. Amen. I'll invite Scott Applewick, Third Age Committee member, to introduce our guest.
Okay, good morning, everyone. My name is Scott Applewick. I'm a member of the Third Age Committee here at Westminster Presbyterian Church, and I'm happy to introduce to you Jill Freeman, who is our speaker today. Jill is a move specialist and professional sorter for Gentle Transitions. Gentle Transitions has been moving thousands of Twin Cities seniors for the past 31 plus years. We will soon learn tips to help those considering an upcoming move or who would just like to declutter for the future. From downsizing, sorting, getting rid of the excess, to packing, unpacking, and resettling, we will gain valuable knowledge and a multitude of resources to help us get through the process. And do this all gently, of course. Please join me in welcoming Jill Freeman.
Thank you. I got one on. It is so exciting to see all of you here today. I so appreciate it. And if you came today because downsizing and kind of getting rid of stuff is in the back of your mind and you thought you were the only person, look around. We're all thinking about it. I have been with Gentle Transitions for 7 years, but I've been sorting for over 40. I was that kid that family called that said, help me go through the attic, help me go through the closet. And that was in my early teens. And it took me till 61 now to come full circle and do exactly what I was meant to do. How many people have heard of Gentle Transitions? Oh, that's wonderful. For those of you that don't know about us, and most people A lot of people don't until they need us. But Gentle Transitions is what's called a senior move management company. And that just means that we can coordinate entire moves from start to finish for people, or we can tailor make them. Everybody works with one move manager. That's your go-to person. I describe them as the wedding planners of a move because we all know what they do. They do the details. And they are there to help you figure out what goes and what will fit, and then what to do with things that are left over that you're not taking. So I notice when I speak to large groups or even small groups, a lot of people walk in and they don't want to make eye contact with me because they think I'm going to pinpoint people as having too much stuff. So I like to start with my favorite cartoon. Nope, turn it on. It's the Zitz cartoon from the Star Tribune. And this is Jeremy. Jeremy just graduated college, and he's helping his parents put things in the attic. Here you go, Mom. Thanks, Jeremy. What is all this junk? Mostly things we're saving for you. These boxes are your elementary school papers and art projects. That trunk is where I store your middle and high school memorabilia. And we thought you'd want all this old furniture plus grandma's china cabinet and knickknacks for your first apartment. Notice the box of teapots and doilies. Mom, my first apartment will be a backpack that I carry around the world between gigs. She looks at her son and goes down to her husband and she says, our attic has been living a lie. Because most of us, if we have things in storerooms and stuck in closets, we're saving it for somebody else. We're just not sure what the timing is, so we just keep putting more and more away. That's why I come out to talk to people, because moving and downsizing is a number 10 on the psychological stress scale. That is only behind death and divorce. So if you think moving is hard, it's 10 times harder. I come to spread the word that there is help out there. There are companies like us that help people along the way. And we moved over 1,400 people last year. So that kind of equals experience. We've kind of done it over and over. And Gentle Transitions, our motto and our mission is to get people from point A to point B with the least amount of stress possible. If you know somebody that used us, they may have said that it made it easier to go to the professionals and use them and their know-how. I'm going to talk about Gentle Transitions process, how we do things. We know that about 80% of families move you. Families help move. A lot of people use us, but a lot of people use family. But they're going to follow the same process that we do. So I'm going to talk about it and give you tips and tricks and things to help you along the way. We help people with sorting. And then we pack, we move, we unpack, and we resettle. That's our term for pictures are on the wall, everything's in its place, and you're sitting down that night to watch the news. That's how people acclimate to a new space. But why is moving and downsizing difficult for older adults? Well, we're leaving a home of many years. How many people have lived in their home for 20 years? 30? 40? 50? 60? We had one client that lived in his home for 97 years. He was literally born in the home, he bought from his family, raised his family, and now at 97, he wanted to move to a community to have more fun. Because he said he was feeling isolated, yes. So leaving a home of many years is tough. Physical challenges, our backs and our knees aren't what they used to be. The emotional piece, I'll spend a little time on that, because if we weren't really attached to our stuff, it'd be so easy to get rid of it and figure out what to do with it. But we're all attached to different things for different reasons. Children aren't always available, or maybe we don't want them to help. Sometimes we come across that. I had one woman that told me, my daughter is coming for the weekend, and she said we're going to get it all done. You can't do it in one weekend. Don't put that on yourself. I'm going to talk about a few things about managing expectations. A lot of times when I come to work with someone, and we have about 16 to 20 sorters at General Transitions, and I find that clients are saying the same things over and over to me. And I want to bring those up because everybody's thinking about them. Excuse me. Number one, chances of us having something of incredible antique roadshow value is pretty rare. If you have something like that, you probably know it. If you don't and you think so, get it appraised. A lot easier to figure out what to do with it when you know the value. So it comes down to, they're just things. Age does not confer value. I have a lot of wonderful clients that say, Jill, I have a lot of antiques. And I say, that means they're 100 years old. But if they aren't rare and desirable, meaning somebody wants to pay for them, they won't have market value. And that's really important to know if you want to sell something. Worth is a worthless term because I find that what's worth something to one person isn't going to be worth the same thing to somebody else. This, to me, boils down to collections versus collectibles. If you have collectibles that you've gotten over the years and you think they might have value, find out. That will be an easier way to figure out what to do with it. This is the salt shakers, the Yadro, the Casadas, things like that. Hummels. Find out if what you have is worth something, is rare and desirable. Now, the other one I come across is collections. I know a lot about collections, and I think they're different because I collect flying pigs. I love flying pigs. They make me happy. My kids have already said they don't want the pigs. That's okay. We love what we collect because they make us happy. We love to have them around us. And that's great when we have the room. The problem is when we move to somewhere smaller and we can't take the entire collection. Sometimes it's taking pieces of the collection. What I did with one client, she and her husband had 40 birdhouses. They built shelves in their sunroom just for the birdhouses. They knew they were taking one special one. And they got them in all their travels. Wherever they went, they bought a birdhouse. We sat down. Well, first we took pictures of each one. And then we sat down at the computer and went to the Shutterfly website. Lots of people do photo books. And we put all the pictures up on Shutterfly. And then we were able to write a little paragraph about each one. About a week later, she got it in the mail. And she said, I'm taking my birdhouses. She said, I have a coffee table. I can look at them all I want. So think about photographs when you think that you can't take a group of things or just something. I've had somebody that said, everything I give away, I'm just going to take a picture of and throw it in my file. And then if I want to go and visit it, then I can. But she was able to give things away just by doing that. Let's see. Another thing, if everybody's thinking that all the things people collect are trinkets, figurines, cookbooks are another. You might not think that that's a collection, but sometimes people we move have over 100 or more. The nice thing is, people always want cookbooks. So to give a bunch of cookbooks to a donation center, people still pick those up. They love cookbooks. They won't go out of style. Even if you can go on the internet and find a recipe, a lot of people still like the cookbooks. So what I recommend is find out in your new place how much space you think you'll have. Now, if you don't know where you're going yet, chances are you're not going to have more than a shelf. So really weed through your cookbooks. So if you have one cookbook and you have 1 or 2 recipes in it, copy those recipes. What I did when I moved 3 years ago is made a 3-ring binder. And I kept all the recipes that I had maybe in one book, maybe I had 1 or 2. I kept the recipe and I donated the book. So think again in terms of pictures and copying. Another thing that people collect that you might not think is a collection, tools. Garages full of tools. People love their tools. And I understand that because you use your tools and the things in your garage to take care of your home and to build things. And that is an emotional connection. So a lot of people want to make sure that their tools are going to a good place. Everybody got a couple sheets of paper and there's a resource list in there, just to kind of get your mind going on places you can bring things. But Habitat for Humanity restores, high school wood shops, things like that are good to check out because they are collections and we often can't take them where we're going, or at least all of them. What I usually end up doing if somebody is moving to an apartment or a condo, we go and get a toolbox, and we fill the toolbox with things you're going to need, hanging pictures, things like that. And you want to put those things you use a lot in your toolbox. Another thing people collect, boxes, empty boxes. We start in January, and we say, Christmas is around the corner. I need this because it's a certain size, and I know I'm going to need it, which is great if you have the space, but you can also recycle. So start using those boxes maybe that you've accumulated, and then maybe even put them in recycling. There's always boxes to get. One last thing that I noticed, this is what I found when I was moving. It's my collection of keys. I love keys. They go to nothing. But I'm going to have that key to open something someday. Hasn't happened in probably 35, 40 years. But I found it, and I repurposed it so that I could bring it to show to people. What I find when I work with people is they have a lot of these. And if you have a lot of them, they say, well, I can just bring it and throw it in the linen closet, put it down in my parking garage in front of my car. That's okay, but it's going to take up space. And you have to prioritize. Because sometimes people have 100 of these little things. And that's what you're trying to get away from. So that's something to think about. All right. Wholesale versus retail. You won't get back what you paid for something. That wonderful, beautiful Ethan Allen dining room set and china cabinet, while we used it for decades, it doesn't increase in value because mainly of market trends. It's the young generation that wants to get IKEA and Target. They don't want the heavy wooden furniture. So it's all market value. It may not be worth what you thought it was. When I moved, I had a beautiful Ethan Allen dining room set or table. And I tried to sell it for $500. I paid $1,000 maybe 20 years ago. And I just thought, well, maybe that's what it's worth. No takers. I went all the way down to $100 and nobody wanted it. I finally gave it to the people, begged them to take it that bought our house. And that was perfect. But it wasn't worth anything. It didn't have the market value. Condition matters for value and donation. If you're trying to sell something, make sure it's in really good condition. If you're going to donate something, make sure that it doesn't have stains, that it doesn't have cracks, that it's not kind of over its time that you donate it. Because a lot of the donation centers are selling things to raise money for a cause. And after COVID, they got really picky because they were so inundated by items. So think about what you're donating. Family history without provenance or certification may be wrong. If you're holding on to something because of the oral history that's been passed down, oh, that's under glass, that's a button, that's from George Washington's coat, and you need to keep it. But there's no research, no certification to it. If you have something like that that's been passed down in generations and has the oral history, do a little research and find out if it is indeed worth something or is what you were told. And put that research with the item, because kids are more apt to want something that they know about, that they know the story about. I did a seminar once, and a woman was sitting next to her daughter, and she raised her hand and she said, "What do I do with the sterling silver cup and the little sterling silver comb that I had when I was a kid?" And her daughter looked at her and said, "You have one? It's yours?" And she said, "Yeah, it's been in the curio cabinet for decades." And she said, "I want it." Because she didn't know it was her mom's. And she didn't really know because she passed by that curio cabinet all the time. Take things out and use them, or tell people about them. Maybe one or two things at every family get-together. Take them out and talk about it. When I got married, my sister-in-law is here. She probably heard the story. My mother-in-law said, "Do you want the punch bowl?" And I said, "Sure." And she went and brought this big thing wrapped in a blanket. And she opened it up, and it was the most beautiful two-piece punch bowl set. And I said, "That's lovely." She said, "I'm so glad you say that because it's from 1794. It was passed down in her family." And I said, "Well, don't other kids want it?" And she said, "Well, they haven't seen it a lot. They probably forgot it's here." She never took it out because she was afraid she would break it. So I took it out, and every single event I have, I put punch in the punch bowl. My 28-year-old daughter just got married last September, and she told me, "Remember, I get the punch bowl." Because it's part of her history, and she knows about it. All right. Keep your goal in mind, whether you're moving or not, and you just want to start going through things. You want to open space. You want to remove the burden for family members. You don't want to leave it for your kids. Not only do the kids not want to do all that work, but they tell me they get really nervous because they don't know what needs to go to people. They don't know the stories about things. They might give something away that was intended for somebody else. They want to know about what to do, to make your own decisions. Don't wait until you're in a crisis situation or you have to move quick. Those decisions get taken away from you, and that is not what you want. You want to decide where things are going to go. And make the transition easier and less expensive. Less expensive. That's worth highlighting. When I got my move manager 3 years ago before I moved, I said, we had a whole year to downsize. And I said, "Tell me what it would be if I did nothing. How much would it be for me to move?" And she gave me the estimate of $4,888. And I took a whole year. The check I wrote to General Transitions was for $1,800. So much more manageable. Sometimes I have people say, "Oh, we'll just worry about it later. We'll just move it, pack it and move it." And sometimes that's boxes upon boxes. That's a lot of money that is for things that you're probably not going to keep anyway. Why it's hard to let things go. Obstructions to coping. This is a great diagram because it kind of covers the big parts that people worry, the emotional pieces. Why do people hold on to things? Well, inside is fears and pressures. We're all afraid that we're the ones with too much stuff, and we might be getting pressured by our family members to start going through it. Sometimes kids nag and really push their parents to start getting rid of things because they don't think you're thinking about it. So if people start just doing little by little, and you tell them, "I'm starting to do it," it makes them feel a little bit better, and they don't nag as much. So I'm going to start with memories. We hold on to things because we think if we get rid of it, we're going to lose the memories attached to it. Photographs are a great way to keep that memory. A lot of times we don't lose that memory. We just need to sit with it for a little while and decide, do I need to keep the object in order to keep the memory? Not usually. The next one, we hold on to things because we think they're going to be our nest egg down the line. We think we're going to cash in on this. Somebody gave it to us, it's worth a lot of money. Find out. Have an appraiser look at it, because then you'll know. And a lot of people like to divvy up things and be fair with their kids. It's a lot easier to do that when you know the value of things. The next one is gifts. We hold on to gifts even though we only put them out when people visit. We don't need to do that anymore. This is the era of downsizing. If somebody asks you, where is that so-and-so I gave you? They should never do that, by the way. But if they do, my stock answer has always been, I loved it when you gave it to me, and I enjoyed it, and now I've passed it on to somebody else who enjoys it. That's all you need to say. We're getting harder. The next one is personal identity. We hold on to things because we want people to know what we accomplished in our lifetime. We want them to see all the scrapbooks maybe that our parents put together. My husband's one of them. He can't get rid of all those wonderful paper clippings of when he did hockey in high school. But we want people to know. So if you have things tucked away, I can't tell you how many boxes I come across that have all these beautiful wooden plaques that say Salesperson of the Year. But they've never been put up, and the kids have no idea they're there. Great conversation piece. I had 2 adopted grandmas, and I met them through downsizing with them for 3 years. They weren't ever going to move, and they finally did. But they had always told me they were incredible secretaries in the 1940s. They were sought after. They were really important. And so when we moved them, they insisted on bringing 5 big boxes of office supplies. Now, they were 89 and 90. No, they were more than that. So I said, okay, we'll move them, but 2 weeks, I'm going to start bringing them up. So I brought the first box up after 2 weeks and opened it up, and Norma looked in it, and she said, why did we bring that? And I said, well, you wanted to tell people you were incredible secretaries in the 1940s. And she looked at me, and she said, oh, they know that. We told them. We share our histories, or we should. And sometimes you can do that around the table during a holiday. Have everybody write down something that maybe they don't know about, that people might not know about them. Something fun like that where you can share the stories. The next one is legacy items. This is a really tough one for a lot of people because this is the heirlooms. These are things that our great-grandparents or more have passed down to our grandparents, to our parents, down to us. And we promised we'd be good stewards of them. We'll take care of them and pass them down when the time is right. Time is right, but the kids don't want them. So then what do we do with them? We feel guilty. Well, now what do I do with them? Well, a couple things to remember. Our great-grandparents. I come across a lot of the crystal containers with the sterling silver top and sterling silver spoon that's for jam. And they used it for jam. Then they passed it down to your grandparents, and maybe they used it. And then they passed it down to your parents, and your parents went and bought jam and jelly at the store, and they didn't know what to do with it. They put it away. That's because things become obsolete. And we need to remember that. Because especially right now, the younger generation wants things efficient. They want minimal. They don't want to use extra flowery things. They buy houses without dining rooms, open floor plan. They don't even register for China. So we have to think, what is this item, because it's an heirloom, I want them to want it. And they often don't, because they can't see a purpose for it. So then we get to decide what we're going to do with it. Sometimes it's give it to donation. Sometimes it's repurposing. So you have to think about, can it be used? Is it useful? If it is, maybe the kids would want it, but if they don't, there's reasons why they don't. So think about the things that you have. And maybe look for groups or other people outside your family that would want something like that. Listen here, mister, there's no such thing as too much Tupperware. Everybody laughs because we have too much Tupperware. This is not Tupperware. This is one of those things that we buy at the grocery store. We eat everything that's in it, and we look at it and we go, ooh, I can wash that out and I can use it for leftovers. Which is great. That's reuse, recycle. The problem is that we keep using them, and we keep not using them but stacking them up. And then we push them farther into the cupboard, and pretty soon we have a really, really crowded Tupperware drawer. I tell people, keep the Tupperware or Rubbermaid, because those are worth something, and if you have too much, to donate those is wonderful. Put these in your recycling. Keep about 10 of them to start. Make sure different sizes, different tops. And then watch how you use them during the weeks. Probably, chances are you don't have all 10 in the fridge at one time. Sometimes people do what I used to do, is I hoarded them because the Thanksgiving and Christmas were coming up. And I like to cook like I have a huge family and then give everybody something to take home. Well, I got smart, and I tell them to bring their own. So my kids show up with baggies and Tupperware, and I load them up, and they take them away, and I don't have to store them. So sometimes people have told me they go back after my seminars, and they do the Tupperware drawer. I did one for a senior community, and the sales and marketing person really was looking at me when I talked about Tupperware, and he called me the next day, and he said, I am so excited. I did my Tupperware drawer. And he got rid of stuff. And if you think it's hard at the beginning, it does get easier to go through things, because you kind of have to make decisions, and we'll talk a little bit about that. Before I start sorting with somebody, when I come, we sit down and we evaluate their current lifestyle. Now, you don't just change your lifestyle when all of a sudden 60 years and you're downsizing to a smaller place. We change our lifestyle year after year when we live in our homes. Before kids, having kids, kids leave, grandkids come. Then we used to do a lot of things, and maybe we stopped doing some of them, skiing, baking, but we put the things away. We didn't let them go. So what you need to do, it's really important, is think about, what's my lifestyle now? What do I want to continue to do? Do I want to continue to, maybe I don't have Thanksgiving anymore, I've passed it down to the next generation, but I do have poker night, book club, Bible study, bridge. How do I entertain that way now? What do I want to continue? And bring those things. My parents used to do a big dinner when they had bridge, and they, over the years, went down to snacks or a buffet. And then they went down to paper products. Made it so much easier. So think about what you want to continue. Those are the things you focus on. Those are the things you know you want to take first. How will it change, and how has it stayed the same? Then I usually ask them questions. There's a reason to asking the questions. It's already putting a dialogue in your head where you're thinking about what things you need. How much of the things do you need? It's so much easier when you talk about it and think about it, even put it down on a piece of paper. Because when you go to a closet or cupboard and you pull out that Thanksgiving platter, you're not stymied. You're not, oh, what did I do with this? You've already kind of talked about it. I don't have Thanksgiving anymore. Maybe I'll ask the person that is having it now, or I can donate it to a young family that is still accumulating things. So sometimes I ask, will you be doing your own cleaning? If you have a cleaning person that's going to follow you, great. Maybe you're moving to a senior community where they clean once a week. You don't need all the cleaning supplies that you have. When I moved, I went down to 1 bucket, and I carry it around to all the rooms and bathrooms that I go to, clean, and I put it back in the broom closet. So think about what things you still need. Do you not need everything that's under every sink in your house? I notice that people use cleaning products, and if they don't work, they don't get rid of them. They just keep shoving them farther and farther under the sink. You don't need to do that anymore. Put it in a box and take it to the hazardous recycling center in your area. They'll take it out of your truck and away you go, or your car. Will you be cooking, and has that changed? Maybe you cooked for a large family. Maybe you're cooking for yourself and a spouse or yourself, and you don't need all the things that you've used before. You need the basic things. Start with the basic things, and then add the specialty items that you use, a special bowl, a special appliance that you like to use. And think about, okay, how am I cooking? Do I need 7 frying pans? Maybe you can go down to small, medium, and large. Same with saucepans, small, medium, large. Maybe you have a lot of measuring things. Maybe you can go down to a large, medium, small. Will you be entertaining, and how? So this is, again, thinking about how you're going to entertain in your new place or down the road. When you start going through closets and things and you come across stuff you don't use, that's what we're talking about. What did you use to entertain? Do you still entertain with those things? A lot of people tell me where our kids don't want our china. I've come across lately kids that want the china because they're finding that they haven't registered for it. They don't have it. And they do want it. So ask family. Sometimes they want, maybe out of 12, a 4-piece place setting. Maybe they just want 4, and you could split it up. I had one woman she had her great-grandmother's china. She said, I haven't used it, nobody wants it. I'd like to donate it, but I really love to look at it. And what she did was bring it to a frame place, and they put it in a shadow box, a place setting with the platter, and then a dinner plate, then a salad plate, and a roll plate, and she hung it on her wall. So there's some creative ways that you can keep those memories, but not keep all the items. Do you need all your seasonal holiday decorations? Anybody only have 1 bin? Woo! Wonderful. You guys are way ahead. I usually don't get hands. We love our seasonal holiday decorations. Usually, sometimes we'll move over 20 boxes of holidays. One woman raised her hand. She said, 1 bin per holiday? I knew she had a lot at home. What I suggest to people is if you decorate every room in your house, during the holiday, bring up those boxes. And I challenge you to put things out that you love. Give them pride of place. Sometimes people have a lot of shelves and they put everything up. And you don't really see them. You don't really look at them. Put those things out that you really love. Give them pride of place. I used to do my whole house. Now I'm down to maybe the living room, the guest bathroom, a little bit on the stoop. I scaled it back. And then I looked through my boxes and I gave things away to my family members. You can give those to donation centers. There's a lot of families that don't have the Christmas stuff, and they really want it. As you can tell when you go through, if you thrift, you could see a lot of things during the holidays. When I was moving, I noticed that I had a lot of trinkets and things that I could probably just pick off and get rid of. But then I thought, I have a lot of nieces and nephews that were young and hadn't started their first apartments yet or just started their first apartments. And I put card tables all over my living room, and I put everything on the card tables. And I texted them and I said, come on Saturday, don't tell your moms. I got rid of most of it. I had maybe one box left. So there's a lot of ways you can kind of get rid of things if you have time. That means start soon. And just little by little, if it's too overwhelming or too hard. Will you be doing your own maintenance? If you're moving to an apartment or a condo, townhome, where there's a maintenance person, you probably don't need to bring all the things that you had at your house. So pick and choose, find out what you would need, put together a toolbox. It can be a big toolbox of wrenches and all kinds of fun things that you might need. Oh, there we go. A complimentary assessment. Gentle Transitions and the companies that do what we do always do a free estimate. It doesn't cost a thing to call us up and say, I want to talk to somebody about moving. Then they send out a move manager. Those are those wedding planners again. They come out and they talk to you about, do you want us to do the whole thing or do you want to tailor make it? They find out maybe if you need some help downsizing, maybe somebody can come over and help you start looking through things. Then they give you an estimate for our services and the truck. And if somebody calls us back and says, yes, I'd like to use you, then that same move manager comes out and they start with the floor plan. If you're moving yourself, your floor plan is your primary reference. That's where you figure out what's going with you and what will fit. I always tell people, if you're moving yourself, if you're having Gentle Transitions move you, we do this, but measure your cabinets, like in your kitchen. Measure the width and the depth, because if it's a newer place, the cabinets have gotten a lot smaller. I can only fit pretty much a dinner plate size in one of my cupboards. And it looks like I have lots of drawers, but the drawers are much more shallow, and I can't even fit a spatula. So think about how many drawers do I have, what drawers do I need, and what's going in them. So make sure you think about your floor plan and do your measuring. Floor plans are usually done when the building is built. If they've gone through a renovation or they've done something else, those measurements could have changed. So you want to do your own measuring. If you need to go through your clothes closet, one of the best things to do if you know where you're moving is measure the closet rod to where you're going. Then go to your house and put a little blue piece of tape that tells you how much space you have. And then you have to start making some tough decisions. When I help people go through their closets, sometimes I bring a coat rack, and we take everything out, we put it on the coat rack. And then we say, okay, what are the things that are your go-to grabs that you wear all the time, that you know you're not going to get rid of? Well, take those first and put them in. Then slowly start going through things. And keep a donation box near you or a plastic bag, and only put things in that you think you're going to be wearing. Now, if that's a little bit hard and you're not moving yet, sometimes people turn all their hangers backwards. And then when you pick something out, after you put it back, just put it back the regular way. And then after a couple weeks, start noticing what things you haven't turned around. Maybe there are things that you didn't like anyway that don't fit. Those are things that could go to donation. So those are just a few things that you can start going through. Here's $20. Make sure the plaid chair never gets there. This has actually happened once, but I didn't take the money. I love this cartoon because sometimes when people are moving out of their homes that they lived in for 60 years and they're moving into a new place, they say, let's get all new furniture. That can be fun, but a lot of times we want the familiar with us. We want, when we start our floor plan, what I recommend is start in the room you spend most of your time in, den, office, living room, and recreate that space. There's always time to get new things. But when we move to a new place, it takes at least a year to acclimate, 6 months to a year. I've lived in my new place 3 years, and I'm still moving my kitchen around. So to have those things that are familiar, that chair that you watch the news in at night, with the table, with the chair you can turn on without looking, that keeps our anxiety down. So think about the things that you're taking and start in the room that you spend most of your time in. Now it's time to get your bags and boxes ready before you start going through your cupboards and closets. A lot of times what I do is we walk through the house and we see the different areas that you might want to start downsizing. Under the stairs, closets, storerooms. And then I always start with a trash bag. Only ever use black garbage bags because you won't remember what you put in it. And you won't want to start taking things back out again. So I always put together a box and put a black garbage bag in it for trash because you're always going to find bits and pieces to throw away. And it's really hard to drag around a plastic bag and keep bending down, throwing things in. This is just an open box with a bag in it that you can toss things in. So we get a trash bag ready. Then we get our other boxes ready. Put together a few boxes for donations. And then I always do a hazardous box for when we go in the storeroom or the garage and there's old paint, kerosene oil, things that can go to hazardous. And on the resource list everybody has, there's every county's recyclable hazardous waste and really easy to take it in. That's a great thing to just send away. People that are moving into your home will most likely not want the paint. You don't have to worry about that. So have that be something that you can get rid of. Have bags or boxes ready for others you may give items to. Maybe your siblings, maybe your kids, grandkids. We usually either do a bag or a box and put their name on it and find an empty wall and put them in there. Because one of the things that catches people up when they start going through a closet is, I pulled this out, I pulled Janie's yearbook out. Does she want it? Should I ask her now? And you kind of leave and stop doing what you're doing. So if you have something like that, you have Janie's yearbook, I'll put it in her box or bag. Put it in her box or bag. Then give them a deadline. 2 weeks is good. Say, come get what you want, and then take the rest for donation or throwing in the garbage. If somebody lives out of state or can't come as often, taking pictures of an item, send them the picture, text them the picture, and chances are you'll get an answer in about 5 minutes or less. No, thank you. But then you know, and you don't have to keep wondering if they want it. I had a great client, a gentleman who worked all summer with his grandson. And I think he was 12 years old or so. He gave him a little bit of money to help him. The grandson was a whiz on the iPhone, and Grandpa didn't really want to text and take pictures. So they walked around the house, and they did it all one summer. Had a blast. And they did a lot of the work. and made sure that the kids were on board taking things or sending things to donation. Then I say, if you're doing this yourself, work in phases. Phase 1 would be the first pass. That's walking around your house, maybe looking at a very cluttered shelf and saying, well, I probably don't need that Kleenex box cover. I probably maybe don't need this. And putting them in a box and taking those to donation. Things you know you don't want. It's amazing when you start clearing out shelves, you really start noticing what's there. They get cluttered over time, and we just don't see it. The next, phase 2. Next, try downsizing a small area where you can see success. This can be a linen closet. Those are great places to start. It can be the luggage closet under the stairs, or the appliance graveyard. That cupboard in your kitchen that's around the corner that has the juice box or juicer and bread maker and soon to be air fryer. Every generation will have their thing. The linen closet is a great place to start. I say because we use that all the time. We're always opening it. And when I was moving my adopted grandmas, before we started, we were standing in the closet, or in the hallway. And I looked at the closet and I said, where should we start? I said, how about here? And Donna looked at me and she said, don't open that door. I knew that's where we had to start. I opened it up. We found 35 towels. We found over 50 bottles of shampoo and conditioner, those little sample bottles. We found Christmas presents she had forgotten about. We found things she had forgotten about. And I said, does this bother you? And she said, no, I just walk fast past the closet. I said, So we took everything out. We only put back in things that she used on a regular basis. We kept 4 towels because they did laundry once a week. My husband and I have 6 towels to our name, and there's usually 4 in the cupboard. And then we have a few for guests. So we put everything back nicely organized. And the next time I came, I said, how are you feeling about the closet? And she looked at me and she said, I haven't even thought about it. We have burdens that we're not even aware of. There's just things we don't want to go to. We don't want to open that because it opens up a whole can of worms that we know we need to deal with. Then keep going. Work up to the hardest things. If you find, let's say, a crystal bowl that you've used for a lot of holidays or belong to an ancestor, and you think, okay, I got to make a decision now, but it's just really hard, put it back. Keep doing the downsizing in other areas. You can always go back to it. And I guarantee you, after you've done some downsizing and you go back to it, you will think differently about that item. You will either say, I can get rid of it, or it will become a priority item. That if you're bringing your china cabinet, it's going to go pride of place. So we change our way of thinking the more we go through things and the more we decide, boy, I can do this. Some things are hard, but I can do this. At Gentle Transitions, we use, when somebody is moving, maybe in a few weeks, we use dots, the kind you get at Walgreens, for a communication tool with our packers. So you can do this with family. The green go on things you're taking with you. And yellow go on things you're undecided about. Maybe a lamp that you're going to put in your floor plan, but you're just not sure. You're not sure if you have the space. Yellow dot. Then eventually, the yellow dots are going to be things you do something else with. Maybe family can look at them. And the red are things that are not going with you. Maybe they're things that are broken, things that need to be trashed. You put red dots on it. Maybe there are things that maybe you're going to have an estate sale. People use different colors as a way of communicating. These are things that are for the estate sale. Or they give the kids different dots, that if you want that, use dots or a Post-it. I always caution people when they're running around putting Post-its on things to give certain kids, remember that Post-its can be changed. And sometimes that happens. So also write down what people are getting and put it away, put it with your will, and then you know where it is. And then people know what certain items are earmarked for certain family members, kids, friends. If you earmark something for a friend, make sure you put down their name, their address, and their phone number, even an email, because the kids might not know that friend, and then they don't know how to get a hold of them. So that's really important. All right. We're going to talk about each one. The greens, things that are going with you. I come across a lot of photos, a lot of boxes that look like that. And they have loose photos thrown in them. What I recommend is take the box out, sit down in that chair you watch the news in at night with a photo pen and a garbage. If it seems like too overwhelming to do a big box, take a shoe box and just do it little by little. Look at the pictures, and if they're landscaping or people you don't know and nobody else will know, toss them. The kids have told me, we really want things identified. That's what we want. We want to know who this picture is, who's in the picture. So if you know, write it on the back. And then put all the photos back in the box. The kids can have the box of photos. They want things identified, and they will archive it in the way that they want to. A lot of people have put them on flash drives, the cloud. I've heard of people that have gotten a certain website, just created a website or an email, and they put it in there, all the pictures. There's so many different ways, but let the kids archive it the way that they want. You just look at it to identify the things that are in there. So the yellows. Now, this is the getting rid of stuff. These are things that are not going in your floor plan anymore. You don't have any more room. Maybe you'll have an estate sale. I can tell you that over the 1,400 people we moved last year, only 5% had estate sales. There's a reason for that. It's because estate sale people want you to have enough stuff that they value. They know what has market value. So I tell people, don't be offended if they say, we can't do the sale because we're not going to make enough money. Sometimes they need to make a lot of money because they get paid first before you get a check. So you want to think about, interview 2 or 3 different companies. Ask them different questions. Ask them, do you help us set up? And then do you help us clean up after the sale with things that people don't buy? Do you have a plan for that? Sometimes they'll hand you a check and away they go and you're left with all of this stuff. So make sure that you have a plan. Make sure that they're bonded, insured, and licensed. And make sure that you like them. Make sure that you trust them. Maybe they have appraisers that they use that can help appraise things. Maybe you're going to have antique appraisers look at it. You're going to give it to consignment, possibly. Remember that consignment stores, they'll take something in that you think is worth $100 and they'll put $35 on it. And then the next month it goes down 35%. And maybe 2 more months it gets marked down and then it gets donated or you can come and get it. So you don't make a lot of money, but you might make something. It all depends on what you want. But think about that in terms of consignment. And you also have to get the things there. Maybe family wants it. Maybe you'll give it to a charitable organization. Maybe you'll sell it on your own. Facebook Marketplace. A lot of people are using Facebook Marketplace. I've had a lot of older adults that I've worked with they put something on Facebook Marketplace, and immediately they start getting responses. So it's just like, and it can get a little overwhelming. So have somebody help you with that, a friend or a family member, because you should never be in your house by yourself if somebody comes and picks something up. If it's a smaller thing, meet them in a different area. A lot of times you can meet at the police station or a parking lot and have somebody with you. That's just doing your due diligence and protecting yourself. Charitable organizations. This on the right is just a smattering of the organizations that people donate to. Gentle Transitions partners with Bridging. How many people have heard of Bridging? Oh, I love that. They have a warehouse in St. Paul and in Bloomington. It started by Fran, who was a minister, and he was in his church one day, and somebody came in and said, "Fran, we're moving. We have a couch. Do you know anybody that needs it?" And Fran said, "I don't know anybody right now, but put it down the basement." And they did. And that happened over and over. And then some people that were coming into the parish would say, "Oh, we're moving into a new house. We don't have a lot of stuff." And he'd look at them and he'd say, "Go shopping down the basement. Take what you need." So that's how Bridging started. And they're amazing because they help people out of poverty and homelessness into apartments, and they furnish them. They go through over 300 blankets a week. Their goal is to have one dresser per family member when they move into a home. Right now, they have enough to only do one. So they need a lot of different donations. And they want nice stuff, so make sure that it's something that somebody can use. There's the Silver Closet. Has anybody heard of the Silver Closet? Oh, good. That was started by a group of realtors that found when people, seniors specifically, older adults, were moving, whether they were veterans or they were moving from a family's home into a community, they didn't have anything. And so they started the Silver Closet that all people need to do is sit down with somebody in the administration in the place that they're moving, and they can shop online for rooms. They'll bring a whole kitchen. They don't do things like one chair. They do apartments. And they're a wonderful place to give smaller items to. They like love seats, smaller tables, because people are moving into smaller apartments. So that's something to think about. Salvation Army, ARC, Goodwill, Bibles for Missions, People's Exchange, and the DAV are wonderful too. If you're calling a donation center, make sure you know if they will pick up. A lot of times they will pick up, but because of gas prices, they'll charge a fee, and sometimes the fee is different. Sometimes they say, "Yes, we'll pick up, but we won't go into the house to pick it up." I had that situation when I recently cleared out an apartment, and I wanted to give it to Bridging, but Bridging wouldn't come in to take it. So what I did, I know the owner of the franchise for Junk King, and they were great. They said, "We'll come get it," and their main purpose is to get things to donation. And they said, "We partner with Bridging." So I could have Junk King come in, take all the stuff, and it eventually went to Bridging, which was great. So you want to ask them, do you pick up? Do you charge a fee? And ask them what they will accept. Most organizations will have what they accept on their website, because you don't want to bring something that they say, "No, we don't take that," and then you have to figure it out. So make sure that they take those things. The reds are the recyclables. Maybe you're going to get a dumpster, or a lot of people are using those bagsters, those big green bags at the end of the driveway. Those are great as well. You can get them, I think they're about $29 at any hardware store, Menards, Home Depot. And then you put them up, as their directions are wonderful. And then when you're ready, maybe you can do a whole garage in a weekend and throw all that old wood and everything. You could throw anything in a bagster except for hazardous or electronics. You could throw filing cabinets, you could throw toilets, you could throw just about anything. And then you call them for a pickup. The pickup, they'll charge you for the pickup about $100 to $125, somewhere around there, depending upon where you live. But it's a great idea if you want to do something quickly. At General Transitions, your move manager, if you're working with us, they take care of the truck. If you're moving yourself and you have to hire the truck yourself, make sure they're local and residential, that they're bonded, insured, and licensed, because that's your recourse if something gets broken. And then I always say, ask them if they've moved to the location where you're moving before. If they haven't looked into the policy, General Transitions, all the move managers either know or call and say, what's your policy for moving in? Where do we park? What elevators do we use? How many elevators can we use? That goes into an estimate. If the moving company hasn't been there before and don't know the policy, a lot of times, if they drop off your stuff at the loading dock and your apartment is on the second floor at the other end of the building and they can only use one elevator, that becomes the excuse for upping your estimate. Well, it took us a lot longer than we thought. So it doesn't hurt to say that, to ask them that. At General Transitions, we pack and move in 2 days. We have about 103 employees. Most of our packers are retired. They come back to give back to the community, and they're just a wonderful group of people. We show up at 9 o'clock in the morning, 9:30, with the move manager, and the move manager decides how many people need to be in your pack team, depending upon the size of your house. And then who's ever packing the kitchen is going to unpack it the next day. Whoever packs your walk-in closet is going to unpack it the next day. So they're paying close attention to where you like things, and they want to make it as familiar as they can in your new place. So if we start at 9, we're done in about 4 to 6 hours, especially a home that's been downsized. Now, if somebody doesn't downsize and they have lots of stuff, and on pack day they're still figuring out what's going to go and what's not going to go, that takes a little longer. So it's well worth it to downsize before you move. Unpack and resettle day. This is the next day. The move manager shows up in the morning with the truck, and the guys start loading the furniture and the boxes and things. And then they call your pack team and they said, meet us at the new location. So you're not paying for somebody unless they're working. People show up and start unpacking the boxes they did before. They're making the beds, putting the clothes in the closet. They're plugging in the lamps, setting the clock, getting your computer going, and they will hang the artwork. Sometimes people don't want to do that right away. They want to figure out where they're going to put things, and we'll come back and hang pictures for you. General Transition is known for photographing and replicating. That means everybody on your pack team carries an iPhone or an iPad. And for example, if we do a china cabinet, they're taking a picture of each shelf, and then it's packed a certain way so that when it gets to the new location and it's polished and shined, everything goes back exactly the same way. I've even seen our packers look at their picture and turn a little figurine. They're very passionate about what they do. They want to make it just beautiful for you. So if you're moving yourself, taking pictures can be proof of condition. If you have cabinets with the glass doors, things like that, take pictures of that so that you have it if it gets to the other location and it's not in the best shape. One day, son, all this will be yours. I hope this is a garage and not a storage unit, but you never know. This is what you don't want to be. You want to make your own decisions. You want to make sure that you don't pass it on to family members. and it's less expensive to move. And you get to decide where things go. So if you do anything in the next week, I suggest start going through your Tupperware drawer. Start going through the monkey business drawer, we call in my house, the junk drawer. I don't know where that name came from. Why don't, I'll show you that's the picture of all of our move managers. Why don't I open it up for questions? Is there something you've come across? Yeah, go ahead. Oh, thanks, Sue.
Thanks, sir. So this is just an absolutely wonderful talk, but I do have a couple questions. You spoke about getting things appraised.
Yes.
Doing the research, and that kind of scared me a little bit. And we've downsized a couple times already.
Yeah.
But is there a way to get resources to help someone do the research?
Yes.
Or
Well, the first thing is sometimes to start online. Sometimes if people have items that they don't know what they're worth, are they worth something, they take a picture, and you can even bring it to your local antique store and say, are these worth something? Do you sell these? Do you know what the worth is? Starting there sometimes is the way to go. The internet is amazing. Sometimes in the browser up top, you can put the most vague things. When I worked with someone that had a collection of Vaseline glass, she wanted it all to go together. And we put in, what do you do with Vaseline glass? And there were a bunch of things that came up, and she found a group where they wanted all of her Vaseline glass. So sometimes it's what I call going down the rabbit hole. It's just start putting in things and getting things back and seeing the more you can refine it, the better. Doing research on an item you don't know what it is. I've come across that. And I go to antique stores and find out. Or I put in the browser what it looks like, just a description. Is there something else you were looking for? Yeah.
I have a backup question on that,
Sue.
and that is, what type of appraisal do you get? Is it replacement cost, insurance cost?
You can get both. If you're going to keep it and you just want the insurance value, so it's something maybe that you need to insure on your in your insurance, you can get that, or they will give you what people will buy it for.
Thank you.
If you have something that you want to know the value of, a great place is eBay, but don't go on eBay and just put in cuckoo clock, because you'll get tons of cuckoo clocks, and people will try to sell them with anything, for anything they want. Some you'll see are $20 and then $1,200. What I do is there's a tab on eBay over on the right that says Advanced. And if you click on Advanced, it gives you a page where you can click on a box that says Sold For. If you click on that, you'll find what the item's actually sold for, and that will give you market value, a better idea of what people really want to pay for those items. Yeah.
Ma'am, one thing that caught my ear right at the beginning of your presentation was make your own decisions. And that's what I want to do. I want to make good decisions, rational decisions. And my wife had that charming introduction about somebody that the trash man took it all, the donkey was unburdened, burn it all, we're all free. Well, that's not me. I don't want to get rid of it all. And I want to talk to you about decisions that maybe are not rational. In my 76 years, more than one individual has raised the possibility of a move that was not good or didn't have to be made, or renovations on where they are living, and as a means of an artificial deadline, getting going on it and getting it done. And my father, for example, my parents accumulated quite a bit, and as Parkinson's disease was overtaking him and other ill health overtaking my mother, he came up with the idea of an even trade for a house in the upscale area of the San Gabriel Valley of Los Angeles County, and trade it even for a house in La Habra, California, that was worth, less than half that. From $250,000 house, even trade for less. He thought that was a good idea. That would be worth it to him. And I guess I just would offer you that chance to comment. Artificial deadlines that set you up for failure and misery. Thank you, ma'am. A great presentation.
Thank you. That's interesting because I have seen other people do that with their kids. You can have our house. We'll sell you the house as is, and you have to take everything that's in it. So that's one way to do it. Artificial deadlines, just to get things done. That I can't see where that would hurt if it helps you. I'm gonna in 5 months. I'm gonna really look for somewhere else to move, and you give yourself 5 months. But then at the end of 5 months, maybe you haven't found a place or anything, but you've certainly done a lot. That could be helpful, artificial deadlines. Just knowing that they might move. But just starting is helpful. And I tell you, the more you start getting motivated. And people get their friends into it sometimes. I think I was telling Margaret that I've spoken at a lot of churches. And after I leave, the churches decide to they start a group once a month or something that is a support group for people that are downsizing. And they get together and they say what trouble they're having. Sometimes somebody comes and speaks. I think one church had 3 people come with something that they're having trouble with.
Better than no sandwiches.
And it was just a great way to support each other in a church.
Ken?
Here's a mic.
How do you deal with partners who have the attitude that he who dies with the most books, microscopes, whatever collection,
I get
wins.
that question a lot.
Wins.
How do I work with my spouse? And the same answer I always give is don't. You might have different ideas on what to get rid of. Work on your own stuff first. Work on your own stuff because they'll see the benefit to that. They'll see things start opening up. They'll see that you're happier that you can get rid of things. I worked with a couple I worked with the wife first, and her husband was very resistant. He said, "You're not doing my dresser, you're not doing my closet." And I said, "Okay." So I worked with his wife, and we went to her linen closet, and we did the linen closet. And every now and then when I was over there, I'd see him open it up. And then we moved to her walk-in closet, and we did her walk-in closet, and he was always looking. And one day I said, "I'm wearing on you, aren't I? You're going to let me do something." And he said, "Not yet." But eventually we got through a lot of stuff, and he said, "You can help me with my dresser." So little by little, do your own stuff first, and then have them see the rewards and see that it's easier as you go. And sometimes you just can't. Sometimes they won't get rid of things. And that's really hard. Sometimes it's working with another family member, maybe a grandkid. Sometimes it's fun to do it with a grandkid because you can tell them the stories. They haven't heard them before. That's tough. Yeah, I would say start in your own places and show them. Yeah.
Sorry. 2 comments and a question. One is, if you're going to write on slides, this comes from my daughter who's an artist, get an acid-free pen.
Yes.
And if you're going to tape anything, get acid-free tape.
Yes, thank you.
Then you didn't mention Tech Dump.
Oh, yeah.
Which is a place that takes all kinds of electronic stuff and has people, it's like Goodwill. They employ people to tear it apart. They resell what they can.
Yeah.
It is also a great place if you need to pick up a piece of electronic equipment because
Yes.
it's there for sale.
They'll take things, you have to pay to bring it to them.
Actually, there's a lot they take that you don't have to pay for.
Yeah.
You have to pay for anything with a CRT tube, which most of us don't have anymore, and then there are some other things that they charge for, but you can ask what they
Yeah.
do pay for. And my question was things like silver plate, and I mean, where do you, a lot of that's not worth much, but a lot of us got it for our weddings.
A lot of us did.
I guess that was the main thing. And then Christmas donations, do places actually want that now?
You'd have to check. A lot of them will do it during the season. Sometimes they start in November. They'll start taking it in anticipation. And sometimes if you go to one donation center and they said, we're full, we don't take it, try another one because some of them, you kind of have to look for the space. But yeah, I would say start closer to the holiday, maybe a month or two before. They'll start accumulating stuff. Silver plate. Silver plate is not worth anything anymore, which is really hard because some of us have beautiful things in silver plate. I would say try, maybe sell it on Facebook Marketplace. Sometimes if it's really ornate, a consignment store might take it. A lot of times people just put it in a box for recycling and they'll bring it. There's express metal in Hopkins that you can take boxes of metal and they'll pay you, probably a penny on the dollar, but it's recycled. There's a place called Julia Moss Designs in Wyzetta, thank you. And I love that place because you can take something, maybe you like the shape of something, but you don't want to polish it or it looks old-fashioned because it's silver plate, and they color it. I'm not sure of the process. I wanted to go and talk to them about that, but it's similar to like dipping it into hot pink, and you have a hot pink, beautiful pot-bellied teapot, and one of your kids said, ooh, I want that. They don't want silver plate, but maybe that's one place that you can go and have something reused.
We've got a question over here.
Oh, okay. Oh, Tech Dump. TECH Dump. DUMP.
But otherwise you have to pay. So if you go to a local resource, it's always better.
Yes.
But let's be clear. Tech Dump is recycling, and it hires disabled people to tear it apart and recycle the components. And so taking it to the county site, I don't think gets that done. So Tech Dump is like taking your stuff to Goodwill. That's technology. That wasn't my point. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I don't mean to belabor it, but just call first and find out because it varies by where you live.
Yeah, it's worth it. Like Bloomington, they come around at your driveway, at the end of your driveway, like once a year and pick things up. So check.
This is a tip for people who are just starting because that's what we're doing. And I gave myself the artificial deadline, if you will, of one thing per week to get rid of. Facebook Buy Nothing pages. And if you are on Facebook, there's a page called Buy Nothing, insert your neighborhood. For me, it's Hale Page, Diamond Lake. I'm over by Lake Nokomis. I have gotten rid of over 100 things, as obscure as a soft egg cup to the glass screen door in front of our fireplace. We got a gas insert, but somebody needed one. And the beauty is they come to your front door and pick it up. You put it in a bag, you have it on the front step, they come, they take it away. And so you're not, because I didn't want to start stacking things in a corner and then just feel overwhelmed by that stack.
Little by little.
And I'm not joking. And some weeks I donate, 10 things or get rid of 10 things, and sometimes it's only one a week, but
That's a great
good way
resource.
to start. Yeah.
Thank
So
you.
buy nothing on Facebook.
Buy nothing.
We've
How are we
got
doing for
2
time?
more people.
Okay.
Do you have any recommendations for a large collection of music CDs?
A lot of the places, a lot of people are going vinyl again, and I would look at those places. What's the name of that? Downcountry? Places that sell albums might also take CDs. I'm not sure. But they're the people that would take the more vintage things.
Thank you.
That's where I would look. And even going onto your computer and putting in who takes CDs, who buys CDs, is worth it. Yeah.
I'm Arnie Bigby, and my wife Barbara Lavalou and I were married here in 2005, so this is a really special place for us. I was diagnosed about a year ago with early onset memory loss. So we decided to sell our condo in Edina, and we'd already, in merging, when we got married 18 years ago, we merged 2 households, so we were already downsized into a 1,000 square foot, 2-bedroom apartment, condo. So we're moving to an apartment because it's going to be a lot more flexible and easier to deal with if I need to have some other kind of care other than living in our an apartment. So we're moving February 1st, and we've completed a lot of these things. This is a great program, and I hope all of you, especially those who are younger, I'm just 80, you're listening to this and paying attention to it and taking it to heart, because we've just been fortunate in having a lot of these things occur for us. We've had a lot of support from other people, but it's been a relatively flawless experience for us now, and we came through that time of this is going to be challenging. We had apprehensions and so on. After a period of time, this is exciting. We are really anticipating and looking forward to it. It's going to be great.
Because you put in all the work. Yeah, you're ready to do that.
Thank you, Arnie. We have one last
okay.
question.
Okay?
Well, first of all, this was amazing.
Good.
You
Helpful.
just did a really fantastic job
Thank
of
you.
sharing a lot of helpful information.
Good.
And I'm thinking of a lot of people that I know who would love to have been here, or who I would love to share this information with. Besides having people come to, like you've done here, do you have any recommendations for like a book? I know that the Gentle Art of Swedish Death Cleaning is a popular resource.
Death cleaning.
But for people who are looking to do this, is there a particular recommendation for a book that might be helpful?
Let's see. Oh, let me see if there might be some on the resource list. I think we put some on, and I can never find it when I'm looking. Books. Second. Oh, online resources too. There's lots of online resources and blogs that are really fun. There's just so much out there that you can just go on your computer and stay all day. It is. Yeah. There's one that's called the Legacies We Leave Behind, that talks about the legacies that you want to have in your life. There's just so many. Declutter at the Speed of Life. That's another good one. If you want to give me your email, I can shoot you a bunch of others too. I'd love to do that. Okay.
Thank you so much, Jill. This has
Thank
been
you.
fantastic.
Where's Sue? Thank you. Scott, do you want to move people or?
We'll wait just a minute.
Oh, there you are. I didn't know where you were talking
Sorry.
from. Thank you.
Eric, can you do the next slide, please? No. Okay. Our next program, I have the wrong date down. It's February I think it's the 8th, whatever Wednesday is, the second
I'll
Wednesday.
double check. Let me open my computer.
Okay. It's Contemporary Understandings of Human Growth and Sexuality. The Reverend Alexandra Jacobs will be holding that. It'll be 11 o'clock here in Westminster Hall, also on live stream. Each spring, Westminster holds a human growth and sexuality workshop for children. As one of Alexandria's favorite annual events, she's excited to share with us a human growth and sexuality workshop, grown-ups edition. Reverend Jacobs will also help us to understand the new usage of pronouns. And Margaret, will you lead us in prayer before we go to lunch?
Absolutely. Thank you. Thank you again, Jill, for this lovely presentation. And I love hearing all the ideas shared amongst the group. It sounds as though this is a very present reality for a lot of folks. At my table, somebody mentioned Bridging again as an organization that's helped a lot of the refugee families that have come from various parts of the world. And so just sort of hearing what everybody's sharing for good ideas is wonderful. To give a little color to Alexandra's presentation next week, you might think, why do I need a human growth and sexuality workshop? It is the week before Valentine's Day. Couldn't schedule it for Valentine's Day because that's Ash Wednesday this year. No, the committee was really thoughtful about this and thought, gosh, the messages that we get around human sexuality have changed a lot since some of the folks in this room were kids, since I was a kid, and we're teaching children a new ways of understanding what it is to be a human being. And we thought, let's get our children and youth pastor to come and talk about that with us. A lot of folks you may have a grandchild or somebody in your family who's using pronouns that you're not used to. This is a great chance to come and learn and discover. So please do come for Alexandra's presentation next month. I will say a brief prayer before lunch, and then we will gather over there. If you hadn't had a chance to pay, we have a cash box. If that is a hardship, it's $5 for the lunch. If that's a hardship, just go ahead and go through the line. We are so grateful to be together and to continue this conversation over lunch. So let us pray. Gracious and loving God, we thank you for the homes that you have given us and those that you call us into. We thank you for the community of this church and for the fellowship of family and friends. We thank you for this enlightening presentation, and we ask that you would guide us and help us through the transitions of our own lives. Thank you for this food, those who made it, those who prepared it and brought it here. In your holy name we pray. Amen.